Hey everybody, it's your boy Duel, back with another video. Today we'll be reviewing episode 11 of the Spectacular Spider-Man. This episode's titled Group Therapy. It was written by Andrew Robinson and directed by Jennifer Coyle. Max is seen getting released from prison, and he's getting told by Dr. Kafka that he needs to continue his therapy and he'll be on the right track. But as soon as Dr. Kafka walks away, Max makes a phone call to Dr. Octopus. Doc says he's taken quite an interest in his case, and Max is telling him, "Oh man, you're the only person that called me when I was locked up in Ravencroft." Max is like, "I can't wait to double team you-know-who," and Doc says, "Double team? Oh, surely we can do better than that." Doc then hangs up the phone and he's asking if Hammerhead's men from prison are busy tonight, and they say that Mr. Rage let him be free. He nods over to Vulture, and Vulture nods back at him, and then we move to a scene where Vulture is handing food to the inmates, and it seems to be, I guess, like some sort of ham sandwich. The first one being to the Rhino, and the next one is Sandman. Sandman immediately gets upset by this, and he says he doesn't do sandwiches, and he throws it right back at Vulture, and Vulture tells him to save room for dessert. Alamo the Spider-Man. It would appear at this point in the episode that they are going to attempt to form the Sinister Six, and it's about time. The intro starts. After the intro, Electro is seen breaking out of his cuffs to then overpower the prison, and so that all the doors open. Rhino and Sandman are freed first, and then Rhino busts out the Doc and Vulture while Sandman busts out Hammerhead's goons. The guards try to stop Rhino, but to no avail, he runs them down pretty much immediately. Electro then breaks him out of the prison where Doc meets up with him, and he calls him Max. He's like, "Oh, Maxwell, thanks for showing up and helping us out," or whatever. And he's like, "Hey man, don't call me that. Call me Electro." And he's like, yeah, I guess you're right. Hammerhead arrives in a helicopter, and he gives Vulture, Ock, and Shocker all their gear, with also an escape boat. They all escape, and they all get in a boat. They separate their ways. Well, I guess a few of them get on the helicopter, and I think Sandman and Rhino get on the boat, and they head towards the city. We move to Peter's house, where he's seen sleeping in on Saturday, because he's been super tired recently. Peter starts to get up. He grabs the symbiote suit, and he realizes that it latches to him immediately, like he can't handle being separated from Peter. He looks for his web shooters, but then realizes the suit grabs the web shooters with the symbiote webbing. And he's like, "Oh man, this suit creates its own webbing. This is amazing. This is great." Peter heads downstairs to talk to May, asking if she's still going out with Miss Watson, but May says she's feeling a little tired, but Peach says she should go anyway and have the best time of her life. Peter then heads to the university, where he runs into Eddie, but Eddie is extremely mad at Peter already. Pete's like, "Hey man, why are you ticked?" And Eddie's like, "Hey man, you only use other people to get ahead. You need to get a taste of your own medicine. Lose something that you care about. Only problem is, I'm not sure if you care about anyone." And then he leaves. It can be noted that Eddie is wearing a motorcycle jacket, and it's got like white lines near the front. And it basically it looks like, the Venom symbol, the white with the symbiote. So I thought that was pretty cool. We move to Spider-Man swinging around, where he says that he's somehow lost his oldest friend, but he quickly says, who needs him? We got the suit. We don't need anybody else. May and Watson are headed to town when the cops show up, and Rhino is there, seen terrorizing the city. Spider-Man quickly shows up, says, he's like, "Man, I knew no prison was wide enough for you, Rhino." Rhino's like, "That's very funny," but Spider-Man's spider sense starts to go off very quickly, and he's like, "Well, this is weird. I usually don't get my spider sense tingling when the enemy's right in front of me," and it turns out it's the Sandman, and he gets punched by him, caught off guard. The Sinister Six then form, and Doc asks Spidey if he's got any last words before he begins to approach him. Spider-Man realizes he's outmatched when they're all together. May and Watson interrupt, and May tells the Six to back off of Spidey, but Spidey interjects and puts them into the theater, getting them out of harm's way. The Sinister Six start to fight Spidey, and as Spider-Man runs out and he's fighting with the villains, May gets tired, and she seems like she's having a stroke. She says her arm starts to hurt, and then she passes out. Spider-Man, unaware of this, latches onto Vulture and tries to punch his armor, but it's too tough for even good old Spider-Man. The Six say that his old tricks won't work on them, and they quickly get a one-up on our boy Spidey. He realizes he can't fight them all at once, and he has to bail, so he jumps into the sewer. The Six follow him in there, and Electro tries to light the way, where Doc says, "Hey man, it's cool that you're here, and thank you for this, but you're going to have to head upstairs because you're a danger to the group right now when we're in the sewer." Sandman's also seen turning to mud, and he's like, "Hey, can I go up there as well?" Shocker's like, man, you bunch of amateurs. And then Sandman's like, well, who are you calling amateurs? Basically, like, igniting a fight between these guys. These guys don't work well together. So, we'll see how that pans out. We move to a scene with MJ where she's talking to Gloria over the phone about a guy she met. And it's not Pete, and it's not Flash. But it turns out it's Eddie. And he shows up in a motorcycle. This is kind of shocking to me because I didn't really see her and Eddie talking at the formal during that episode. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is 100% off screen, so they never show it, but it's still interesting nonetheless. At the Bugle, Jonah says that the villains didn't start appearing until Spider-Man showed up, and he's asking where Parker is. And while they're talking about it, Robertson shows up, says that there was an old lady at the scene during the attack, and the old lady goes by May Parker. Betty realizes that that's Aunt May, and they shot to call Peter right away. Jonah calms down from his anger and quickly says, no, I'll call Parker myself. So I just want to add a quick note here before I continue on with the review that I really, really, really like Jonah in this show. I think he's depicted very well. Like, he can be an angry tool bag when he needs to be and he wants to be, but when things matter and things get real, he calms down. And he's like a sane guy. Like, it's super weird and great. I really, really like it. It's almost like he has his own alter ego, which is just funny because, you know, he hates another guy that kind of also has his own alter ego, right? So I just think it's interesting. It's like this nice moral center to Jonah that we've been getting a lot of in this show so far. So I really, really appreciate that. Peter gets home and JJ tries to call him, but he doesn't answer, thinking that Jonah will yell at him about pictures. He lays down and he goes to sleep, but while sleeping, he gets a voicemail from Anna Watson, where it looks like she's called the voicemail about 15 times. This is a weird moment in the show because they use some sort of like 3D animation, and it takes you through their house, like downstairs and down to the voicemail box. I don't think they've done this before. I don't recognize it anyway. I just thought it was interesting. Thought I'd make a note of it. Captain Stacy is watching the Sinister Six, and it appears that they're eating dinner. Rhino, Vulture, Shocker, and Sandman all start to fight because they didn't catch Spider-Man and that he escaped. While they're arguing, Electro quickly tells them to calm down and that they're never going to win if they don't listen to the Doc. Doc says, yes, thank you for that, and they will get Spider-Man. All they have to do is to force a situation where he has to play the hero because he can't help himself. Peter wakes up to a news report that the Six have been robbing a bank in Central Park, so he springs into action. But what's weird is we don't actually get to see Peter wake up. The symbiote just takes over his body and he springs into action right away, and he doesn't say anything. Vulture alerts the Six that Spidey's here, but something's weird. Peter isn't saying anything while he's getting his butt beat by the Six right now. He's not saying a single word, not cracking a single joke. So by now, it's to be deduced that Peter is sleeping during this time. They beat the crap out of Spider-Man. They actually get, I'm going to call him Sleeper Spidey going forward during this fight scene. They knock out Sleeper Spidey, and they're about to decide how to eliminate him. And they say, well, you won the coin toss, Rhino, so you get to take him out. And right before he's about to get taken out, the symbiote is not having it. It starts to get angry, and he like shoots these tentacles out of his body, hitting Rhino in the eyes, and then he hits Ock in the eyes. And then Electro tries to help by shocking Sleeper Spidey, but he ends up just hurting Doc, and then Spider-Man gets free out of Dr. Octopus's claws. Eddie and MJ are riding around the town, where Eddie asks if Pete will be bummed if she's hanging out with him. MJ's like, well, we're not exclusive, and she's like, hey, what's the deal with you and him anyway? We get an interesting backstory from Eddie where he says that it's the same old backstory, and I just called it interesting, that's funny, and that they grew up together. Their moms were best friends and their dads were partners. They had a startup lab together, and then they went to a conference together. And then there was a funny plane crash. MJ's like, I'm so sorry, but Eddie's like, it's alright, stuff happens, right? MJ starts to notice that as Eddie is talking about Peter, he's getting very angry, and as he's getting more angry, he starts to drive kind of crazy and reckless, and it's too fast for MJ. He's just getting more and more angry, and he says that he's always been like a big brother and kept the boys off Peter's back, so in gratitude, he took pictures of their boss for his own gain. Eddie almost runs some people over, and then MJ's like, all right, you've gone too far, buddy. You need to end this ride right now. And Eddie's like, what do you mean? Don't you want to hear how the story ends? MJ gets off the bike, and she says, you know what? Pete may have his faults, but he's twice the man you'll ever be. And of course, Eddie is very, very upset about this information. He does not like getting rejected like this. So what's interesting to me is that MJ is already able to make this assumption about Peter when she really doesn't know that much about Peter, at least that we've seen. So it's interesting that she's able to defend Peter this quickly. She knows Peter almost about as much as Eddie does, in the fact that he's just so angry and not actually asking Peter and talking to him, trying to figure out what's going on. He's just assuming everything and getting angry and jumping to these conclusions. So anyway, I just wanted to point out, I thought that was weird that MJ is like, oh man, he's way better man than you. I guess in the time that they went to the formal together, it's just seen that Peter's a better man, but maybe all that stuff was shown off screen. Personal preference, I would have liked that if they would have shown that a little more from MJ, seeing what kind of guy Peter is, but we haven't been because he's just been too busy being Spider-Man. Anyway, Stacy arrives at the scene trying to stop the Six again while they continue to fight Sleeper Spidey. Sleeper Spidey seems to be getting a one-up on the Six, where he's like dancing around them and he's basically tricking them to use their attacks against each other. Electro knocks out Rhino while trying to attack Sleeper Spidey, but Sleeper Spidey uses Rhino's body as a shield and then chucks him on top of Electro. Sandman tries to help Electro, getting the Rhino off of him, but Electro is too panicky and he's just his powers are just too much electricity. It like forms a ball of electricity. Vulture notices that Sleeper Spidey's trying to escape and he stops him. Or he tries to stop him anyway. Spidey rips off Vulture's helmet, incapacitating him. And he also takes off one of Vulture's sharp claws from his feet and he chucks it at Shocker's shock device, rendering Shocker pretty much useless. But he's not out of the fight yet. He still tries to take down Spidey, but he then throws one of Shocker's devices. I think he like knocks it off of his wrist. And he chucks it at Sandman, and for some reason this depowers the Sandman, so now Sandman's out of the picture. As he's fighting Shocker, Ock interferes, saying he knew Spider-Man was getting serious when he stopped cracking jokes. Ock grabs him by the head and he's like, I promised Rhino an impalement. And he's taking Spidey over to the Rhino, and he's still knocked out at this point. And he's about to impale him on his horn, but as he does that, Electro just goes way too panicky and he shocks Doc Ock in the process, freeing Spider-Man once again. Ock tries to take on Spider-Man 1v1, but Sleeper Spidey gets the upper hand once again, and he knocks him out pretty quickly. And right before he's about to, with the fight's all said and done, he grabs one of his tentacles and it looks like he's about to impale him through the heart, but Captain Stacy stops him. He's like, look, Spider-Man, it's over. Sleeper then flees the scene. We move back to Peter's house, where Peter wakes up only to realize his alarm never went off and that he slept for 9 hours. He's like, man, I slept for 9 hours, but why do I still feel so exhausted? And he also notices he's got a scratch on his arm. And he's like, well, I don't remember that scratch being there before. He's like, okay, well, whatever. And then he goes to go talk to Aunt May, but he's like, man, maybe I should let her rest a little longer. So he still doesn't know that at this point May's in the hospital. He opens the door to find the paper that he himself had taken these pictures of him taking down the Sinister Six. Realizing that he doesn't remember any of this, he now comes to the conclusion that the alien suit was using his body during the night while he was sleeping. He's like, man, it must be some kind of symbiote. But in his mindset quickly changes and he's like, who cares? The Six were put down hard and then I get paid for the photos. What else matters? He's very angry until MJ shows up, asking where he's been. Pete tells her to quickly be quiet as May is asleep upstairs, and she's like, no, Peter, you're wrong. May actually fell and had a heart attack. She's in the hospital. Peter is then very shocked by this, as he should be, and that is the end of the episode. Okay, so overall thoughts. Really liked this episode. I was kind of hoping that we would see more of the suit actually taking over Peter's mind, and maybe we'll get that next episode. Like, I like it when Peter is still awake and aware, but he's doing things that he doesn't normally do. And this might be what we see next episode, where it gets him to the point where he realizes, like, hey man, this suit is affecting me and my morality. I need to get this crap off of me. So I'm hoping that we get more of that. But other than that, this is a great episode. We got the Sinister Six finally, so that's awesome. So just because of that, I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 5. The fight scenes were actually really, really good. The animation was really, really good, as per usual. The only stuff that got weird to me was MJ and Eddie, because that kind of seemed out of nowhere and out of left field. I don't remember them I don't really, I could be wrong, but I don't remember them interacting at all. So I just thought it was kind of weird. I did notice that we haven't seen any of the high school gang since Harry has been outed as the Goblin. And obviously we haven't seen Norman or the Goblin or Harry for that matter. And we're probably not going to for a little bit. But I'm sure we'll see them again soon. But yeah, solid episode. I'm very excited. I'm liking this symbiote saga. I don't know how many more episodes it's going to go on for, but they are definitely heavily seed planting the Venom setup. So that's probably, if it's not coming next episode, it'll come the episode after that. I could be wrong. They could drag this out, but I don't. It's a kids show. I don't see them dragging it out for that long. They're gonna want to put Spidey back in the red and blue, like we all want him to eventually down the line. But anyways, that was a solid episode. I really liked it. Really enjoyed it. I liked that the suit is like, the longer he's on Peter, as it should, it's affecting him, but like it's not affecting him mentally quite yet. It's just taking over his body. I mean, it is. I guess you could argue it is affecting him mentally, and the fact that his mindset is changing. So it's not like completely changing who he is yet, but it's still like, no, shh, I'm the symbiote. Everything's fine. We're going to get paid. We took them down. Who cares? So he's slowly getting to that point where he's losing a sense of morality more and more. And so, yeah, we'll probably get more of that next episode where he'll eventually realize the suit is too much and he'll take it off. But anyways, yep. That's going to be it for me. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. And while you're here, if you can, give the video a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe for more Spider-Man content. It really helps out the channel a lot. I really appreciate it. And remember, with great power comes great responsibility. I'm Dual Dyer, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.